We're smooth 98.1 FM. Good morning and welcome to Freshly Pressed for the 8th day of September 2023. And we're ready to get into it at exactly 29 minutes before it is top of the hour, 8 o'clock. And I've been joined this morning by AB Bozimo. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Omatseye. Good morning to all the wonderful listeners.
So talking about the listeners, so let's let them know they can be part of the conversation this morning if they send in their thoughts to any of the headlines we shall be taking or treating this morning onto 0809-444-0981. WhatsApp messages only. Once again, the number would be on 0809-444-0981. That said, AB, let's dig into the first paper for this morning. Staring at she says the headline, oil theft. Nigeria lost 16.25 trillion naira in 11 years, and that's the House of Representatives Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, revealing or disclosing at this point.
You know, I have a problem with that word lost. I think all listeners are relatively sane, and if over the course of 2009 to 2020, which is 11 odd years, you are losing something, I think most of us would have found a way to stop it. So that word lost is actually not a word I accept. It means if indeed these are the numbers of barrels of oil that are not accounted for, then there has to be some form of collusion. In your house, when you step out this morning, if there's a tap that's dripping and wasting water, maybe at your borehole, because we're all local governments unto ourselves, there is no way you will leave your house this morning and leave that tap just leaking all the way to your office all day, all week, and all year. You would do something to stop it. So we didn't lose that money. We left it at great cost to the country. We're talking about 16.25 trillion naira. Even at whatever value the naira and dollar is, that is a lot of money. That is almost 1 or 2 years budget, if you look at it. So for us to look at that kind of amount, say it's being lost, and now, okay, this is a new person on the job. He's the new speaker, Tajuddin Abbas. So he is now new on the job and is asking for accountability. And he's invited people in the upstream and downstream sector, and they've refused to honor invitations. So the question is, what is the consequence when a public servant refuses to respond to a request by the people's representatives? Are they feeling that they are above the law? Are they feeling that they are above the representatives? Don't forget, no matter what your views about the House and the Senate are, they are supposed to represent each and every one of us one way or the other. If somebody in public service refuses to come to them, there should be some form of consequences leading up to and including you losing your job, whatever that job may be. So we keep saying we lost. No, we didn't lose. We have been careless. We have refused to account for it. And hopefully this attempt might finally get us to the point of trying to account for this. We cannot continue wasting our resources. NEITI keeps telling us how much money we are losing. Losing is not the word at all. There appears to be some form of collusion for us to keep losing this year upon year.
Okay, AB, but in regard to this would not be the first time the House of Representatives Speaker or the ad hoc committee would be raising issues like this. So it will seem like it has become a ritual to once in a while throw bandy figures in the air, and then even when they even honor these invitations to come and explain, then after the explanation, we all go to sleep. In your words, how do we even trace the money?
That's the thing. There has to be accountability. Some people are in charge of these various sectors, overseeing them. There are committees within the National Assembly, but there are also public sector figures who are in charge. So if you're in charge and this kind of money is being lost, it should cost you something, including your job. They should get somebody who is capable of stopping this alleged loss.
Well, that's a fine place for us to drift on now to get a copy of the Guardian newspaper this morning, where the headline here reads, Minister Kennedy Ohaneye advocates reducing school days for children to work in factories. That's what she's saying. So what exactly in a region where we understand that the average, the figures doesn't even really spell well for the boy child to go to school. They just drop out to go into trade, and then this kind of advocacy comes on board. Wouldn't this plummet education or the zeal to learn?
You know, education is a highly structured arena, and very often there are specified curricula and specified numbers of days of contact, teacher-student contact, that make up what is seen as a widely regarded standard of education. Right now in the country, we're already talking about huge unemployment figures. I personally don't think that this is the time, place, or context when you are reducing the number of contact days for the students and supposedly adding them to the workforce. There are enough able-bodied people who are available to make essentials like toothpicks, sanitary pads, and cotton buds in Nigeria. There are thousands of teeming graduates. Let the children be children. Let them get all the schooling that they ought to get, and let them be actually educated to a point where they are the new creators of wealth. This notion of saying students should stop on Fridays to go into production, I think personally, it is not on the right track. Children need to study. We want to raise up the human capital index so that they are actually able to do more than merely produce toothpicks and cotton buds. That is not the urgent thing in Nigeria right now. And even if it were, there are enough adults who need those jobs. I don't know where she's coming from. She said that in other countries, youth work. But in other countries, yes, maybe from 16, you may go to, work in a fast food as a cleaner or something. And even then, it's strictly after school hours, and you have a limited number of hours to work. It's not, I think the idea is off track, my perspective.
All right, thank you very much. That's because when the forum where she even made that statement, and at the place where you're talking to international investors, I don't know if you expect what impression you expect international investors to walk away with, especially when we consider this statement was made at the Anambra Investment Summit that was held on Thursday. Maybe she didn't consider that aspect also.
I just think she's trying to come up with something different, maybe novel, but I think it's wrongly directed. There are other things she will do. We look forward to hearing other ideas from her that we can certainly see, support, and expect to work.
All right, this looks like a good place to also remind the listener you can be part of the conversation if you send in your thoughts to any of the items the headlines we're treating this morning, 0809-444-0981. We expect the calls to come in, the messages to drop by on our WhatsApp platform. So let's get on to the next story. This is from the Punch newspaper saying, Borno governor signs bill to support Boko Haram victims. That's what we have here.
Well, this was one of, in total, 9 bills, which are all under a structure called the Borno State Social Investment Bill. This is what that bill is called. They're also doing something for the Criminal Justice Administration. They're doing for the State Penal Code, State Secondary Education Board, Investment Protection, other bills that were, signed. The thing is this, I'm happy at any point to hear of whatever support victims of Boko Haram and any other disruptions can get. But I'd really hope that we can stop having victims. So we need to look beyond taking care of these victims, which is a good thing, and reducing the context wherein people are becoming victims. We need to sort out the problem at its root so that those criminals and terrorists have no areas in which to operate and thereby create, unfortunately, victims of Boko Haram. I want to see a situation where Boko Haram is brought to a dead halt. It is possible. We have the men, we have the intelligence, we have the determination. We just have to have the will to follow through. I don't want to hear about victims being helped. I don't want victims to exist at all. Rather, these are good ideas. Let's go with more intention into the investment part of it, into the tourism part of it, into healthcare. Those are the things that were part of the other bills part, which I think is a very good credit to the government of Borno State.
Okay, that looks, we've got a couple of messages dropping already in reaction to some of the headlines we've treated so far. And this one is from Yemi from Marina. As a matter of fact, it was the first to get on the platform this morning, reacting to that issue of 16.25 trillion naira lost in a matter of 11 years. And it goes on. It says, please, when will our government officials stop doling out half-baked details? If the country lost that much value of resources, then it did not disappear. There must have been trails. Why not give conclusive statements that would include where all these resources went, or at the very least, the EFCC investigating certain persons, people, or organizations? God bless Nigeria. That's coming from Yemi from Marina. It just echoes taking it off where you left it off, saying you would not accept losses.
He's right. We just lost, and then we keep moving,
and yes,
come up with this story. And why are you telling me? What am I supposed to do as a citizen? You people are in charge of security and accounting. Somebody should come up with cogent answers. Yemi is right.
Yeah, it just becomes a ritual. You mentioned the next day we all move on, and then again, somewhere along the line, it comes up again. In 6 months' time, we are back again, and it makes the headline. Let's get to Emeka. Emeka comes up with a message here. Emeka says, where were the electricity and petrol to power manufacturing industry for the so-called school children in industrial sector? That's related. So you see, it's even bad at first. It's anywhere in the world, advanced world, you can even be sanctioned by international organizations for even encouraging child labor in the first place.
Child labor, that's the first thing.
I don't. So then it just would even let that slide, and then it raises this question: where's the electricity? You're even talking about manufacturing and all of this. Where would you get that from? So let's hope the investors who have Convergent and Anambra would get all of these details sorted out, and then probably begin to get that state to bring out more things that would yield revenue. And next comes D from Alausa, says, the minister is obviously not saying children should be turned to laborers, but then she's saying children, probably teenagers, use Mondays to Thursdays for regular school work and Fridays for practical productive activity, likely within the school complex, like the practicals we use to do back in the days. That's D from Alausa. I'll take one more before we get back to the papers once again now. And this one is from Benai from Aigbo here, Lagos, saying here, are we a lawless society to be advocating for child labor? This is Child Rights Act, which several states have even yet to domesticate. Let our children face their studies, Jerry. That's from Aigbo here from Lagos. So that takes us to the Vanguard newspaper this morning with this headline: 30 killed in Abuja landslide as 19 kidnapped. That's according to the Vanguard newspaper. Here we go. Double tragedy in one location.
This is shocking. 30 killed in a landslide, apparently due to the activities of illegal miners. A lot of mining involves explosives. So without further details, I might imagine that an explosion occurred, it was in an uncontrolled place, and it led to the deaths of 30 entire people. First of all, there are two parts to it. There's the safety in terms of using controlled substance. Explosives shouldn't be able to be bought with corn at the roadside. They should surely be controlled. Then their use should be by specialists. And then you have the issue of illegal mining. Mining, I don't think, is an activity that you can do under the table. Mining seems to be very, very open, very public, quite destructive to the environment. So to think that illegal mining is going on in the open in part of our country makes you wonder what parts of this nation are actually ungoverned spaces. You can't mine in secret. Then 19 further kidnapped. Again, not in some outer fringe place, but within the vicinity of the Federal Capital Territory. And the Minister of the FCT, Barrister Nyesom Wike, has said he is very disturbed by this. He's happy that the DSS and all those have been informed, but he knows that there's so much more that has to be done, because these are Nigerians or people within Nigeria, whoever they may be, lives are wasting. Some are in limbo right now, those 19 who have been kidnapped. So our security forces have their work cut out, but most importantly, our Ministry of Solid Minerals and our control sector in terms of controlled substances. You do not buy explosives in the market, in the open market. So where did these explosives come from? Who is buying them? How are they using them in illegal mining within Nigeria near the FCT? Do you understand the levels of incredulity that crossed my mind when I heard this story? It's preposterous. And it just suggests that some people are completely dropping the ball in terms of their responsibility. I would hope that this is a wake-up call and we must get answers. There's also an issue of the Abuja urban mass transit in the FCT, which the minister has said he's got to put back on track. That would be very, very helpful.
Now, also, before we move away from this headline, this also incident of the explosive and the landslide as a result of explosive in mining comes just barely a week after the Minister of Solid Minerals purportedly issued a 30-day ultimatum about a month for illegal mining. And this is happening right under his nose. So you expect, in the days ahead, we would like to hear what the Minister, Dele Alake, would be saying in response to this, because charity will start from home, Abuja.
Certainly. And all the ministers meet at least weekly, FEC, physically or virtually. So they must exchange ideas and they all read newspapers. So whether he's been informed formally with this headline, surely it'll cross his attention. We hope to get some response from him shortly.
Okay, before we get the next paper, let's let you know you can be part of the conversation. Let's get your reactions to any of the headlines we are treating this morning onto 0809-444-0981. Send the messages to WhatsApp and we'll be picking them up shortly after this headline comes across. Now, Ogun local government slams residents' ultimatum on allocation. That's according to the Punch newspaper. Well, it seems this cry for people to hold leadership accountable at the third tier of governance is seeming to hit home right now with what these people are doing. What would you say to that?
The fact is, the layer of government that is closest to the people is actually local government. And in Nigeria, like it or not, they get some money. All these people seem to be asking is, account for what this money is used for. In a part of the story, they're saying they don't have enough money to pay for this, pay for that. So account for what you have used thus far. Why would that be a problem for a public official? I think sometimes our public officials don't understand that they are the custodians of public wealth. It starts from the woman selling groundnut at the roadside. It starts from the person in the office. It starts from the business person. That money, as well as other allocations, gets into your hand as a public official. It's not your money to dole out in buying favors or publicity. It is supposed to be used for the benefit of the people. So the person is saying he's offended, almost, at least by my reading of the story, he's almost offended and comes back with that standard thing that it's being done by disgruntled elements or enemies of his. Look, in a public office, you can have no enemies. You are there to serve the people. The moment you are more bothered with who is on your side or against you, you are no longer fit for public office. There will be always people who don't like your style. There are people who support you. That should not come between you and your duties. So he stayed away from office and then he has come back to say, oh, it's people who are, how did he put it? Enemies. I don't even care to repeat his words. The point is, account for the allocations you've got. And I'll tell you, these allocations are not, to use parlance, moi moi. They are hundreds of billions of naira each year. That must account for something. Did you do a bridge? Did you build the famous public toilets? What did you do? Tell us. And then let people also assess whether that sum corresponds to what they see in development around themselves.
At the point when you threw in the famous public toilet, I just said I just gave up on this one really when you threw that one in. But let's look at this from this aspect. You know,
is it because I didn't talk about wheelbarrows? Let's go on.
Okay, so I'm looking at it again. This is the same Ogun where there's a local government chairman who's having a running battle with the governor of the state over allocations as we speak, and he's been out of detention now after the hue and cry that it should be released. So it means from this now, it simply is tilting towards you're asking for accountability from this other end. We must also see it from your end. That's what the mirror is looking like in Ogun State right now.
So guess who benefits? The public. We need accountability from everybody. Frankly, it is public money. You're a public official. You owe an account to the people.
That's same says. Let's get back some more reactions now. This one is coming in from Tunji. Tunji didn't tell me where I'm sending this one from, but his name is on it, so he owns it with his full chest. Not a Nigerian minister advocating child labor. That's in reaction to that statement of reducing school hours so that children can get involved in productivity. In a country with the most out-of-school children in the world, you're asking for less education. In a country with high unemployment, you want to increase the labor force unnecessarily. Tells you the quality of our government. That's Tunji speaking. That I will get back to Chukwuemeka Kanu saying, can the minister's children do that? Can her leave? Will she leave the comfort of her room and head factory, just like said children should? That's from Emeka, and I'm just trying to get the message across now. Chima from Surulere sent in this one saying, it does not make sense engaging school children in production activities in factories with so much unemployment. Forget the NBS voodoo figures. The so-called loss of national resources is fraudulent. That's reacting to the other one figures by the speaker now. The nation is not built on justice. What is happening in the court is embarrassing. That's what he goes on to say. I get this one in from Austin from Satellite saying, a certain region in Nigeria said that Western education is haram. Now, another person is suggesting the children should not go to school on Fridays in order to go to factories and work. Don't we have more than enough out-of-school children hawking in Nigeria? Over 20 million out-of-school children already. Austin from Satellite. And the messages will just keep pouring in. But we'll get back to it in a bit now. So just make sure yours will be part of those messages in reaction to the headlines this morning on to 0809-444-0981. We'll get them in closing shortly. Let's see this one now. The Nation newspaper is next before us, and with the headline screams, Minister orders Immigration Service to clear passports backlog in 2 weeks. Wand of, just whip the wand and then the backlog is gone.
Well, it's on the surface a good order. However, by the time you have this backlog of about 200,000 passports, it is important to ask how you got there. Because when you understand the past, you have a better handle on the present and the immediate future. So he's asked for it to be done. He was in the news a few days ago saying more about this, and we would expect the people involved to jump on it. But we do also have to understand whatever bottlenecks exist. Sometimes it's power, sometimes it's network, and there might be a variety of other things. So while you give that marching order, which I repeat is a good one, you must back it up with the facilities and then put in place remove as much human interaction as possible, automate it as much as possible. Right now, I am of the vintage where we used to take a tally number and enter a banking hall, maybe with a mat, and wait. Now you sit down with your smartphone and you do all sorts of transactions up to certain sums of money. That is using technology. I don't know what the workflow is with the passport, but wherever you can include technology and also a tracking system. You know, when you send an item by any of those big companies, the J and the K, when they send it to you, you're able to track it from China all the way to Nigeria, all the way to your town, all the way to the delivery point. So if you are doing a passport, let's have that ability to track the process. That will make people more accountable. If my thing has not moved, and then give everybody KPIs from capture, 3 days to this, 4 days to that, 5 days, so that people can follow up. And anytime there's a gap, there should be a way to report. And when you report, whoever is in charge has to come and say why there's a delay. That's the only way to do it. But it's a good marching order. but look into the workflow, empower the people, then you can punish anybody who doesn't want to do their work.
Well, before we let this story go to sleep, let's just quickly also let's get a picture of what it looks like somewhere where you walk into a typical Nigerian immigration for passport offices, whether in Ikoyi, Festac, maybe somewhere around the government house in Warri, around that axis in Jeba axis in Warri. You would, as soon as you're walking in, you brought in automation. There are persons who would not even want automation in the process because you are being hounded and you are being called as you're entering passport, and then before you know it, it becomes something like, then you are talking of computerizing it.
No, it's a racket. And as I say, a person, the way, wouldn't people love to go and stand in queue for me at the bank today? They simply cannot, because I'm able to directly deal with my bank. So similarly, create the framework, learn from success, and apply it to this process. And at the end of the day, those people will find something else useful to do. Because you're right, some people benefit from chaos. But if you remove the context of the chaos, they will melt away and find indeed something else productive with their life. There can be nothing more demoralizing than waiting for the happenstance of somebody walking to the passport office and depending on that for a living. That's really even unfair to that tout.
Yeah. So let's our final paper before we get on to the last set of message we've got waiting for us now. This one comes in from the Vanguard newspaper. Electricity, NERC orders discos on handling of consumer complaints. That's according to the Vanguard. It's almost linking to what we're talking about, the passport now, but take it away from here in a minute for us.
Yes, basically they're setting timeframes where complaints are now going to be handled on a complaint management and ticketing platform. Exactly what we're talking about. Add some technology to every process. The world is built on technology, not oil, not even lost barrels of oil. I make this statement not lightly. How many barrels of oil does Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle have? The answer is 0. Yet they are petty cash in maybe Apple, maybe more than Nigeria's annual budget. Petty cash in their drawers. On a lighter note, I'm saying the point is technology can enhance everything. So NERC is showing that they are trying to do much better in terms of handling people's complaints. I want to have one complaint. Why did they raise the price of meters? And how come meters seem so hard to get? And why don't you just simply give a person a meter and bill them over the course of a year? It's your meter. They can't buy, if I have to buy 15,000 naira, the first 5,000 naira should be for the meter. And over time, I'll finish paying it off. That's my complaint. NERC, look into it.
Let's go to the messages now as we close up the show this morning. This one is from Austin from Satellite. Okay, we've gotten that one across already. So let's go to Tayo's message. Tayo says, government securities agency come alive in full force for civilian protests, but kidnapping and other criminal activities, they would rather be quiet about intervening. What we would be hearing in security info about this and that, what is stopping DSS from invading these illegal mining sites? Dan Okuda comes up saying the local government areas is seen as free money for the chairman and governor to use anyhow without accountability. We should learn to hold our public office holders accountable. That's from Dan Okuda from Igondo. So it seems these people from Ogun State, they are leading the way already in terms of asking for accountability, and that is the way to go. Next comes a message from Rexy from Port Harcourt saying, sometimes the bottleneck is human and down to corruption. That's going back to whether it is meters from the power holding discos or even your passports. What it is, they'll tell you 10 years is not available, you have to get 5 years, but then it just goes on, no passport, then you get into panic mode, you begin to want to, let's get into this next one. Emeka Ndukwe from Apapa goes on to say, this minister was advocating that our children should be taught production, not to work to earn money. Well, that's what she's explaining, but that's the context. We've seen that message there, but most you have to be explicit about what you're saying. So we read the message and we saw what she said there. Yinka Bolu comes up with a final message and he's saying, those ones in Festac are legit Okay, that's what he's saying. So he's seeing what it looks like when you want to go get passport in Festac. My uncle went there to ask what's up with his passport. He approached an officer and he asked, who's your agent? He said he paid online. He was told to go and ask for them for update online. Imagine you having passport correction issues and you are expected to fly to Abuja, pay 30,000 naira admin fee, and it's not even certain that your problem will be fixed. It was their website. It was on their website. Imagine all of those shenanigans. Well, Evie, it's a wrap on the show this morning.
Well, this morning, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope the listeners have something to think about all through the weekend. You have a wonderful weekend ahead. God bless you all.
All right, bye, Evie. And that's a wrap on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.
The headlines.
Bye.
The stories.
Yay.